What you're about to see is the single most egregious real-time example of electronic vote fraud maybe ever captured, and it occurred live on CNN. I would ask anyone watching this video to rip it, re-upload it, share it, tweet it, and email it to CNN and to anyone on President Trump's team. The mainstream media and big tech continue to claim there is no evidence of vote or election fraud in this election, and that's because they are co-conspirators in this treason. This is an interview between L. Todd Wood and voter fraud researcher Russell Ramsland, and below this video I will leave a link to the full interview so you can hear many more examples of electronic vote fraud captured by Russell Ramsland.
This is some amazing video that you're seeing from CNN election night. And I want to go back and show you a little bit about this clip. First, I want to explain what's happening in this clip. What's happening in this clip is this is the live feed from Clarity Elections coming through the Associated Desk or Decision Desk HQ. So this is the live feed. You're seeing the database that Clarity has as it gets updated with votes, okay? And right now, oh, and this little ribbon at the bottom, this is generated by CNN. And they update this a second after they get the update from Clarity up here. So let's just look. Right now, Andy Beshear, who is the guy that upset Matt Bevin, the governor at the time, Andy Beshear has 673,948 votes. That ties to what the ribbon from CNN says. Same thing with Matt Bevin, 662,235. 662,235. Now, let me take you through, and real quick, I'm going to run it again. You're going to see, if you're watching just this gold, you're going to see a flash update, and then this guy's face fills the page, and then I'm going to show you what you really missed. So here we go. Watch the gold. The update's coming. Boom, there it updates, and now here's this guy. Now let me show you what you missed. We're going to drag this back frame by frame. And so here we are before the update, and now I'm going to start walking you forward. Watch the gold. Here comes the update from Clarity. Boom. There it is. So now the update, Andy Beshear has 674,508 votes. And look down below, Andy Beshear had 673,948. They haven't had a chance to update the ribbon because this is in split seconds we're looking now. So Andy Beshear has just gained 560 votes. That makes sense. That's what happens as more votes come in, right? Let's look at Matt Bevin. He now has 661,675. But look down below. He did have 662,235 at the exact same second that Andy Beshear has gone up 560 votes. Matt Bevin has gone down 560 votes. This is vote switching in the computer. And by the way, between the 560 gain and 560 loss, you have just seen 25% of the loss amount of this race happen in front of your very eyes.
Your thoughts first about the knowledge now that the Justice Department is involved in this review of the election.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that. I think there are any number of things they need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally. by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Cindy, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated, probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
That's called intervention in our elections, irrespective of I guess if they were Russia or China, we'd refer to them as meddling. But it's intervention, and it's also crooked as hell, rigging this election no matter the jurisdiction, whether it's Michigan, Georgia, wherever it might be. What can we do about it? Because the Department of Justice, I mean, if there's evidence of that program, why not just turn it over to the Justice Department and say, and go to the courts and say, this has got to stop now. Here is the way in which it was done.
Well, we've been trying to get their attention, and we're going to try even harder, and we'll have to put it in a federal lawsuit, apparently, and get as much of it out as we possibly can. We have some excellent witnesses on the issue. But this is coup 5.0, Lou. I mean, there was no reason to think that the Democratic operatives who spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, taking us through a special counsel operation for 2 years, trying an impeachment hoax, the apocalypse hoax, the obstruction hoax, wouldn't go so far as to create every means of voter fraud they could come up with to steal this election. That's exactly what happens. The president must fight back now in every way, shape, or form. We cannot let this republic be stolen by the Democratic operatives who want to destroy the republic and make it a socialist country where they continue to line their pockets with these backdoor global deals like the Biden laptop from hell exposes.
Election chaos 2020. You knew it was coming. After months of engineered chaos on the streets, engineered chaos came to America's polling places. Hundreds of thousands of ballots turned up seemingly out of thin air. Poll workers in battleground states clocked out just hours after the polls closed and then announced that they wouldn't start counting ballots until a day or 2 or 3 or 9 days after Election Day. Shockingly, in the nation's most hotly contested districts, Republican poll watchers were blocked from exercising their legally protected rights to observe ballot counts. This was the crazy scene in Wayne County, Michigan, where GOP observers got locked out of a voting center on Wednesday. Michigan poll workers even taped pizza boxes to windows to obstruct poll observers' views.
I don't know if you can blow it up because it's not big enough. Stop it from doing that. Pizza boxes to cover this room as we speak right now.
GOP poll worker and activist Matt Seeley was there, and he described to me what happened when he and several hundred observers and challengers showed up to do their jobs.
All of a sudden, they locked the doors and said, we're at capacity, no one else is coming in. And then they announced, if you guys want to go get lunch, go get lunch. So a lot of our workers left to go get refreshment in this ballroom that they provided us with, thinking that when we left the room, they'd let another Republican in to take our place, right? Mm-hmm. Not only did they not let them in, they didn't let the person who went to lunch back in. Meanwhile, the Democrats inside the counting room were provided with an area where they could have bottled water, coffee, donuts. They brought in Jimmy John's box lunches, so they never had to leave the room. So they knew in advance they were going to lock us out.
And here was the scene on Thursday outside the convention center in Detroit, where GOP observers were locked out as Democrats conducted their secretive count away from prying eyes. As I warned you weeks ago, anti-Trump forces have used COVID as a grand ruse to hijack the election process. Big League Politics reporter Shane Trejo obtained an audio recording of a Detroit poll worker training session where participants cackled at using social distancing to obstruct challengers' views.
That's important because they can come behind your table. But if you don't have 6 feet, they can't come back there. They cannot wear anything that signifies who they work for. It has to be on their card. So they can't walk in with a party or anything on, just like you can on your mask, they can't either. Any questions?
So for 6 feet back, once they have really good vision, they can actually see.
Exactly. Unless they got really good vision or they brought their binoculars. 6 feet. That's the rule, right? And you are entitled to your 6 feet.
This is all part of the plan. He who harvests the ballots controls the ballots. He who counts the votes controls the votes. This is not conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy truth. Look at Pennsylvania. After winning a ruling from a federal judge to get access to the ballot counting process, GOP poll workers in the Keystone State were still locked out. Can you believe this photo? It looks more reminiscent of a banana republic than our once proud and functional constitutional republic. Trump campaign surrogate Corey Lewandowski condemned the obstruction.
They have 8 attorneys fighting us to see these ballots inside. The court order is in effect. They will not give us access, and the sheriff has decided not to come down here to enforce that court order. The sheriff of your county will not come down and enforce a court order. What is going on in this city? What are you hiding? Open up the doors, let us in, let us 6 feet away so that we can have a free and fair election.
Here's the thing. The FBI and the GOP both have known for years what the left's election thieves have been up to. Independent citizen journalists and watchdogs like Megan Barth in Battleground, Nevada, have collected evidence of dirty voter rolls for years, and nobody did nothing.
And so I've been reporting on voter fraud for 5 years. We had a whistleblower from the post office come forward in 2016 saying that ballots went missing. We handed all of our evidence, including 3,000 envelopes, over to the FBI. These envelopes represented returned campaign mailers from supposedly actively registered voters. We turned all of this evidence over to the FBI, the local FBI office, and they never opened the case.
It's going to take all hands on deck to stop this long-planned steal. It demands the very kind of coordinated and concerted citizen activism that the establishment GOP has long neglected. Look, many Beltway Republicans are AWOL. Where are they? But the rest of us who are fighting to preserve a sovereign nation for our children and grandchildren have no choice but to raise hell and raise our voices.
Stop the steal! 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 Stop the steal!
The Biden crime family stealing the election! The media's covering it up! The Biden crime family stealing this election! The media's covering it up!
If we don't speak up now, it's people like this homicidal maniac and his mob pals who are going to run this country.
Right now, I'm gonna blow his brains out. I'll kill him. Trump is a racist.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.